At the turn of the millennium, BMW stood at its peak. Precision, power and prestige perfectly aligned. But success breeds pressure. What could possibly follow perfection? Inside Munich studios, a quiet revolution began. Designers pushed boundaries, questioning every curve and line. Then came an American visionary, Chris Bangle, ready to challenge everything BMW once defined. This was the Millennium Shock.
The entire history of BMW, Episode 4, the Millennium Shock. From controversy to innovation. When Chris Bangle joined BMW at the turn of the millennium, he didn't just change the look of the cars. He challenged the soul of the brand. For decades, BMW design had been evolutionary. One clean, purposeful line leading to the next. But Bangle saw stagnation creeping in. He believed design had to move the heart as much as the stopwatch. He called his new philosophy flame surfacing. Instead of flat, rigid panels, surfaces now twisted and float like light on water, reflections catching at every angle. To traditionalists it looked chaotic. To Bangle, it was alive. Then came the E65 7 Series in 2001, the first car to wear the new design language. It had layered bodywork, sculpted sides and a rear deck that rose abruptly from the trunk. Enthusiasts called it the Bangle Butt. The nickname stuck and so did the controversy. BMW's most loyal fans were stunned. Internet forums, still new at the time, exploded with debate. Some saw brilliance, others betrayal. Even inside BMW, designers whispered about whether they'd gone too far. But while everyone argued about the styling, few noticed what else had changed. Underneath, the E65 carried a revolution of its own. The world's first iDrive system, replacing a maze of buttons with a single central controller. It was brilliant and infuriating. Owners spent days learning its menus, and yet it pointed toward the digital future every automaker would eventually copy. Bangle didn't stop there. His design principles spread through the entire lineup. 5 Series, 6 Series, even the tiny 1 Series. Each one shared the same sculpted tension, the same sense that motion didn't stop at the bodywork. It flowed through it. For many, this was BMW losing its mind. For others, it was BMW daring to evolve when everyone else played safe. And whether you loved it or hated it, one thing was certain. Everyone was talking about BMW again. By the mid-2000s, the Bangle look had gone from shock to strategy. What started on one car now defined the entire lineup. The E65 series arrived first, angular, technical, and unmistakably modern. Every crease had purpose, each curve a tension line sculpted by light. For drivers used to the clean form of the E39, it was like stepping into the future. A future with a learning curve. The new iDrive was still polarizing, but now it came wrapped in aluminum, soft leather and layered materials that felt half cockpit, half sculpture. BMW was teaching its customers to rethink what luxury meant in a driver's car. Then came the E63 6 Series. Low, wide, muscular. Flame surfacing found its rhythm here. The car looked like it was in motion even when parked. Some critics called it excessive. Enthusiasts called it bold. Today, many quietly admit it's aged far better than anyone expected. At the smaller end, the Z4 turned the design language into something playful, a modern twist on the classic roadster. Hard edges, long hood, short tail. Fans affectionately dubbed the coupe version Clown Shoe 2.0, a nod to the earlier Z3M coupe. What was once an insult had become a badge of pride. Proof BMW still had a sense of humor about itself. And while the internet debated styling, sales told another story. The world was buying in. The controversial BMW became the aspirational BMW again. Design had become emotion, and emotion was selling. BMW had weathered the storm, and now it was ready to remind everyone what it did best. Build machines for people who love to drive. If the early 2000s were about design shock, the mid-2000s were about reminding the world what BMW stood for: performance. The E60 M3 was the exclamation point. Under its hood sat one of the most outrageous engines ever fitted to a sedan. The S85, a 5-liter V10 inspired by BMW's Formula 1 program. It revved past 8,000 RPM, screamed like a race car, and made 500 horsepower in an era when that number still meant something. But the M3 was more than numbers. It embodied BMW's obsession with engineering purity and its willingness to challenge its own traditions. The SMG transmission was its biggest gamble, a single-clutch sequential gearbox that promised lightning-fast shifts. If you could live with the occasional jolt, drivers either adored it or cursed it, sometimes both in the same drive. It became an enthusiast meme long before memes were even a thing. Still, when you found the rhythm, the M3 felt like nothing else, a family car with an F1 heart. Top Gear called it the most complete car in the world. The spirit carried into the E92 M3, the last of the naturally aspirated M cars. Its S65 V8 spun to 8,400 RPM. Smooth, raw, mechanical. It wasn't just an evolution, it was a celebration. A love letter to everything BMW had learned about balance and feedback. Meanwhile, M Division was diversifying. SUVs, coupes, convertibles, performance everywhere. And yet every M car shared the same DNA. High revving power, precision steering, and a chassis tuned for emotion, not numbers. By the late 2000s, even critics of the new styling had come around. They realized something essential. No matter how BMW looked, it still drove like a BMW. The shock of the new had given way to the sound of perfection. 10 cylinders, 8 throttles, and one unshakable truth. BMW's soul still lived at Redline.
By the mid-2000s, BMW had redefined performance. Now it was ready to redefine prestige. The flagship 760 Li became the symbol of modern authority. A car that whispered power rather than shouted it. Every inch spoke of refinement. The polished V12 badge, soft closing doors, and that unmistakable night silhouette gliding through the city. Behind closed doors, CEO Norbert Reithofer pushed the company toward a clear goal: intelligent luxury. Performance would always matter, but the next frontier was efficiency through technology. The E70 X5 marked that change. Bigger, smarter, more capable, it wasn't just an SUV. It was the moment BMW embraced the global shift toward versatility. It balanced muscle with precision. The same DNA, just dressed for the modern world. Then came the E71 X6, a bold crossover that confused critics and thrilled drivers. Part sports car, part SUV. It looked impossible on paper, but perfectly BMW in execution. This was design thinking as a statement. Daring, polarizing, and unforgettable. As the lineup expanded, BMW sharpened its image. The brand campaign spoke of joy, innovation, and driving as an art form. And when the F017 series arrived, it carried all of that philosophy. Hand-finished leather, ambient lighting, gesture controls before anyone else. Luxury had become intelligent. Together, the 760 Li, X6 and F01 formed a new kind of trinity: performance, prestige, and progress. Each spoke a different dialect of the same language: modern BMW. But even as the spotlight shone on V12s and V8s, engineers in quiet labs were asking another question. What if power could be silent? That question took form as the first I concepts: sleek studies in carbon fiber and electric efficiency. BMW was still the ultimate driving machine, but what driving meant was about to change forever. By the end of the 2000s, BMW had conquered nearly every segment. Sedans, coupes, SUVs, even luxury limousines. But the next challenge wasn't competition, it was the future itself. Global regulations were tightening. Emissions targets loomed. BMW engineers began to wonder, what if the answer to performance wasn't more cylinders, but smarter materials, cleaner power, and lighter weight? That question sparked an experiment called Project I, a skunkworks operation hidden deep within BMW's development labs. Its goal? To build the most advanced electric vehicles in the world without losing the DNA that made a BMW feel alive. The result was the BMW i3, a city car unlike anything before it. Its body was built from CFRP, a carbon fiber reinforced plastic normally reserved for race cars. The structure was light, rigid and recyclable. Its design? Minimalist, almost alien. Tall windows, exposed weave, recycled materials. Critics didn't know what to make of it, but owners loved its honesty. Sustainable engineering done with precision. Then came the i8, a futuristic hybrid supercar that looked like a concept brought to life. Butterfly doors, laser headlights, a 3-cylinder turbo paired with electric motors. It wasn't just fast, it was efficient, exotic and shockingly usable. For the first time, eco and excitement shared the same badge. Both cars were assembled in Leipzig at a factory powered by wind turbines and designed for zero-waste production. This was more than marketing, it was proof that sustainability could be engineered, not just promised. To enthusiasts, the i3 and i8 were confusing at first. Too quiet, too digital, too different. But years later, many would look back and realize these were the cars that predicted everything. BMW wasn't just building cars anymore, it was building possibility. The I wasn't just a new letter, it was the spark that would define the next generation. The story of BMW's future began quietly, not with a roar, but with a hum. Electric power had proven its potential, and by the mid-2010s, the company was ready to turn experimentation into evolution. The ideas born from the i3 and i8 were no longer side projects. They became the foundation of a new generation. I-performance models arrived first, bridging the old world and the new, combustion and current side by side. Then came the i4, iX and i7, cars that showed how far the technology had matured. Instant torque, silent acceleration and the same rear-biased balance that defined BMW for decades. Electric didn't mean soulless, it meant different. The challenge was no longer sound, it was feeling. Inside, digital displays replaced analog dials. Artificial intelligence learned habits, adjusted lighting, curated music. Driving became as much about experience as mechanics. For purists, it was disorienting. For newcomers, it was mesmerizing. BMW wasn't abandoning emotion, it was translating it into code. Meanwhile, design had entered its next chapter. Concepts like the Vision Neue Klasse previewed a future where simplicity and sculpture met technology. Classic proportions, clean surfaces, electric hearts. The same philosophy that once split opinions in the Bangle era now guided the digital age. Under the skin, sustainability became the new performance. Factories powered by green energy. Materials recycled, reused, reimagined. Efficiency wasn't a checkbox, it was the new engineering frontier. As BMW celebrated its centenary, it looked back on a century of reinvention, from aircraft engines to electric icons. Few companies had risked so much, argued so often, or evolved so completely. And yet, the journey is still unfinished. Because in Munich, the same question echoes once again. What comes next? Next time, we'll explore the dawn of a new era, the rise of digital design, artificial intelligence, and the cars that will carry BMW into its next 100 years.